Support for Elwood City Limits is made possible by Facebook,
Facebook.com/Elwood City Limits,
Twitter,
@ECL Podcast,
email,
ElwoodCityLimits@gmail.com,
and by subscribing on iTunes and following us on SoundCloud. Thank you.
and my free time.
Hello, and welcome to Elwood City Limits, the episodic Arthur podcast. Thanks a lot for joining us. My name's Will Young. I'm the host of this fine show where we talk about episodes of Arthur, PBS's Arthur, one episode at a time. And here to help me in that task is my co-host, Lucas Mancini.
Do you hear that, Will? I think there's ghosts in the room because it's October. Ooh, Spooktober has arrived. And you know what? You said these episodes weren't going to be Halloween themed, but I think we'll soon learn nothing's more frightening than securing affordable childcare.
Okay, I'll have to see where you're going with this one. No, it's unfortunate. We are recording here in the month of October 2016, and none of the upcoming Arthur episodes are Halloween themed. There's plenty in the series, but just not at this point in time.
I have my own challenge. We'll make our own Arthur Halloween fun. If you or someone you know, or you just come across Arthur Halloween costumes, send it to us, whether it's on the Facebook page, the Elwood City Limits Facebook page, or at the email. Will, what's the email?
ElwoodCityLimits@gmail.com.
And we'll gladly repost it and give you credit. I want to see all the Arthur outfits. I got to imagine there's going to be a cavalcade this year with all the memes and stuff.
They're not hard. You're right.
Get yourself a yellow sweater, some ears, and bam, you're in business.
You're in Arthur Town, baby. That's right. Good idea. And you can even tweet them to us at ECL Podcast. Love to see some Arthur Halloween costumes. I've been thinking about one myself, but I don't think it's, I don't know. I just don't really know if I have the time or the time to try and track down the just right piece of an Arthur costume.
Is it the stonewashed jeans? Is that the thing that's tripping you up?
No, it's the yellow sweater.
It's the yellow sweater.
I feel like the jeans are probably the easiest to get away with.
I guess so. I don't know. I was thinking about it today, actually. How do you glue the ears to your head without it getting stuck to your hair, or even tape the ears? I'm not sure. If you know how to glue ears to your head without getting it stuck to your hair, ElwoodCityLimits@gmail.com.
Sure. All right, so we've got ourselves another full episode of Arthur. Of course, you can follow along with us. In fact, that's the best way to get the most out of your podcast is to watch the episodes and then listen to us talk about them. You can find them on the internet. We trust you. Go fishing and see what you find. So we started off today with Arthur Babysits, which is we're full of debuts this time around. So start off the episode. Arthur's taking care of baby Kate and DW, looking after Kate mainly. DW making faces at Kate.
It's weird to me because Arthur is way younger at this point than I was ever allowed to be in the house by myself, let alone taking care of another kid. It seems, Arthur is pretty responsible, as we've already seen through Arthur's Pet Business, kind of. But he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders for taking care specifically of DW, who seems actually pretty amicable in this episode in terms of behaving. And I guess it's still weird. He's pretty young to be having full reign of the house, I think.
It's true. And he's a very old 8 because he's able to bottle feed his baby sister and whatnot and seemingly be trusted with it. Yeah, I took the babysitting course when I was in junior high, so really,
that's around when I did too as well.
Yeah, stuff like that. So definitely was not thinking about that when I was 8 years old. But well, you do what you got to do. Arthur telling DW about his past babysitters, in that's not how kind of they all had their hang-ups, like Mrs. Gutter.
Is she the golfer one?
That's the golfer one.
This is crazy. I am taking Arthur at face value here. Like, I'm assuming he's not exaggerating these stories. So we see flashes of each babysitter. Mrs. Gutter is playing golf. She's using drivers. She's not putting. She's, like, driving golf balls in their home. this would cause serious damage.
Yeah, no,
It's like that game that came out on Xbox Live, Dangerous Golf, I think it's called, where it's like you shoot a golf ball at all this fine china and it all explodes. This is real life dangerous golf.
It's incredibly irresponsible, is what it is. You're right about that. Somehow that didn't click with me the first time, but you're totally right. Then there was Mrs. Schmagady.
Someone was a little tired that day on the writing team. They were like, "Can we call her Mrs. McGrady?" No, we already have a character called that.
Mrs. Schmagady.
Ms. Schmagady, I guess. All right, let's wrap it up.
Sure. Let's go. Let's do lunch. Who made cookies but was very clumsy. She's a moose. She's another or deer. No, she's more of a deer because her antlers kind of stick out more.
Yeah, she kind of looked reindeer-esque, and she was mad because the house wasn't designed to her specifications.
Right.
She couldn't fit her deer antlers in. That'd be like my house. My doors are all really low to the ground, like a hobbit hole, because my family is very short.
Okay.
But she seemed like, of the babysitters Arthur talks about in this scenario, she seemed like the least totally irresponsible.
I guess, but also I guess she's used to a house that allows for a woman of her carriage, but it still, you don't want somebody that's that easily irritated and didn't seem to be handling responsibilities too well.
True.
And the worst was Mrs. Featherfoffer.
Oh my goodness, we've all had a babysitter, like we've all had a Mrs. Featherfoffer at one point in our lives, I assume. She's like completely ignoring them. She's watching her stories. I can only assume some sort of Arthurized Coronation Street or
soap opera.
Yeah, some General Hospital, something like that. And she just wants Arthur to go to bed. He says, but it's daytime. Doesn't matter to her. She just wants to watch her story. She seems terrible.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like one of those things that is kind of like if you played maybe more sinister music under it, like her telling him to go to bed at like 2:00 in the afternoon is kind of weird. Like it's kind of messed up.
Did you have any babysitters or big babysitter memories when you were a kid, Will?
I mean, not really. I had a few of them, and they were all pretty cool. Like, well, I had an older sister, so 7 years older than me. So she used to kind of look after me a fair amount. We had like her friend across the street would do it sometimes. Of course, younger, could use the money. And then after that, I'm trying to think of when I would have been allowed to stay home by myself. Probably junior high.
Yeah, around when I was 13, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really remember now that you mention it.
So I remember my babysitters in linear order. Let's go, okay?
Oh.
So, Star, this is my first memory. Okay, I was at Star's house, this lady who had this horrible kid, this evil child. And she would babysit me, and I remember she made cinnamon buns, but I didn't like them because they had raisins in them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But that's not the worst part. So her demon child, I must have been 5 or 6 at this point, her demon child cut my hair with these scissors, and he ruined my hair.
How old were you?
5 or 6.
Wow,
and so we stopped going back to Stars. And then there was Susie, who I liked because she had an NES, but my sister didn't like because she was very strict. And then when I was a little bit older, there was Nicola, and I liked because she had a Nintendo 64. So you could see the through line here on my babysitter rankings.
That was also my sister's friend across the street. She had that was my first time playing a Sega Genesis.
Yeah, my neighbors, they had when they babysat me, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped was the name of the game.
For me, it was the original Sonic the Hedgehog and X-Men.
I don't know what the Genesis X-Men's like.
It's pretty good, you know.
Sonic the Hedgehog. It's no Sonic 2.
No,
Sonic 2. You get to play. You get your idiot kid brother or sister to play as Tails, and they think they're helping, but really, Tails just Hey, I'm gonna let you guys in on some pro Sonic 2 strats. Tails just kind of follows Sonic. Shh.
Also noticed the Reed's incredibly small TV when Arthur was a boy. A little boy.
I didn't notice that.
It was like one of those ones you really would have to squint at. Like, good thing Mrs. Featherfoffer had glasses. So Arthur summarizes by saying, some people say babysitting's real pain, and I don't know why, because it's the easiest job on earth?
Arthur doesn't think highly of people who are stay-at-home moms or dads, apparently.
I wouldn't say that. It's just like really underselling how tough babysitting can be. It's like I took the babysitting course and then never did it because I didn't want to take care of children.
Well, I think this might be some foreshadowing of Arthur doesn't quite know what he's getting into.
Well, no, but you would think that he does know because he's had some experience with Kate and DW, as we'll see later. Beginning of the episode, Arthur's taking Kate out for a walk in the stroller, and DW comes back from school, and she's covered head to toe in paint. But I gotta say, her dress is like kind of tastefully splattered. It looks kind of nice. It's mainly blue with a bit of yellow and a bit of red. It's actually kind of tasteful. I mean, she's got like paint on her nose and stuff, and that's no good. But
you're saying DW's whole look here would pass as wearable art? Let's say if DW was to go to Burning Man, this would be the getup she'd be rocking.
She could. You could if you sold it.
I don't know if DW's the Burning Man type. I don't think she's much of a bohemian. Maybe Buster would wear some wearable art.
You brought Burning Man into this, so I'm taking your words for this here. So of course. DW says it was the Tibble twins who did this to her. And we kind of get a little bit of a snapshot of those old Tibble twins as they go past their house, which is this huge kind of Victorian, almost like a mansion. Not mansion, but like a real relic. Like you would almost expect the city of the city of Elwood to give it like
historical building status.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd go as far as to say it's downright spooky. Just in time for Spooktober. DW says that the Tibble twins, they should put them in cages, which is a great line.
And I mean, you can tell immediately. It's Timmy and Tommy Tibble, and you can tell them by their different colored neckerchiefs.
Do you write down which one's Timmy and which one's Tommy?
Timmy is in the blue one, Tommy is red.
Look at that. You don't even have to look down at your notes to remember that. I'm impressed.
I just remember the line of dialogue all these years later. No, that's how I remember it.
First thing you hear when they come out of the door, like a cat, like running out before them, maybe to escape the Twibbles.
Well, actually, they're spraying out the babysitter.
Oh.
We're talking about the first time here.
I see. I'm a little mixed up.
That's what happens the second time. They're spraying the babysitter with like a super soaker, and they're both yelling like, "Hey, DW, I said it louder," and it's just like screaming, and you get the sense immediately that these kids are on what was the name of Star's kid?
Oh, I don't remember. I just remember he was a demon. But they're on the same level. I know what you're saying.
They're on the same level, and you can immediately tell of just like, man, raising those kids is a full-time job. God bless Mrs. Tibble.
So they're voice actors. I can't quite tell, so I might be making a fool of myself here. But are they actual children, or are they?
I looked up their voice actors, and I believe that their ages would have been consistent with them being kids.
Right, because most of the kids in Arthur are voiced by women, which is very common for children's voice acting.
Yes, but DW voiced by a boy.
I also picked up right away that the Tibbles sound realistically just like children, like they got kids in the booth, which was refreshing because until you get shows like Adventure Time much later on, that wasn't that common in the 90s.
It sounds a lot more authentic. They kind of split, but before that, of course, they chase away the babysitter, Mrs. Tibble, who is consistently on an even keel, so hats off to her, is looking for a new babysitter, and DW volunteers Arthur to do it. Which, he could have just said no.
Yet another episode where someone talking up Arthur directly negatively impacts him.
Yeah, but this is in a sense of just like she's talking him up as a babysitter, and he could have just been like, "Oh, sorry, no, I'm busy."
He actually seems kind of game though.
Yeah, like weirdly, and there's not even really talk of payment.
Yeah, and that comes. We'll get to that later on in the episode, but I have things to say. Let's just say, from what we know so far, Arthur's terrible with money.
He's not good at the closing part. So he's going to go look after them this afternoon, babysit them. So he meets his friends at the Sugar Bowl, says he can't play baseball, I think it was, or kickball maybe. He's got to babysit the Tibble twins. Conversation stops dead, and Prunella says, "You don't mean the terrible Tibble twins?" And I'm like, are there two sets of Tibble twins here? Do we need to distinguish? She knows of the Tibble twins because her sister babysat them once, and she still has nightmares about it. Cut to like a really freaky shot of Prunella's sister awakened screaming, and we get an extreme close-up on her face, and her eyes have no pupils, but there's just laughing Tibble faces coming out of them, and it's It's really freaky. Like, it kind of gave me pause there for a second.
Just in time for Spooktober,
Okay,
the Lovecraftian horror has returned
this,
to Arthur.
I don't know about Lovecraftian here. Like,
She's been driven insane. She's shell-shocked. She has post-traumatic stress from the Tibble twins for babysitting them for 1 hour.
But not from just seeing them. Like,
That's true. That's true. I'll give you that.
I think we're pushing Lovecraftian a little bit. Is all I'm saying.
I don't disagree.
So Francine says not to worry. It'll be no different than babysitting DW and Kate. Cut to a montage of Arthur babysitting DW and Kate, who are their own set of problems, and which is mostly DW, because the most that Kate really gets into is that she cries because she's a baby, but then DW makes it no better by crying just as loud.
That's right. Kate's crying, and DW repeats over and over again, "I'm hungry too."
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty funny when you think about it. And also, we get another shot of DW jumping on the couch, counting up imaginary numbers.
4011, 4012, 4013.
I wonder what happens when she gets to 5011 or 12.
I guess we'll never know. Just think of the Tibbles as a little worse than your sisters, and then Arthur just says, "I gotta go."
Now it's starting to set in.
So his friends see him off, and then Prunella just says as he leaves, "We may never see him again."
It's a really good line.
Yeah, it's good. So Arthur shows up. This is when they chase the cat out.
Right.
And or the cat is chased out. And Arthur kind of takes a look at the surroundings as the Tibble twins are just running around and screaming as they are wont to do. And then Arthur's imagination kind of gets away from him once again, because he imagines the kind of destruction that these two can cause with everything in their house kind of toppling over.
Well, so earlier you mentioned how it's kind of a Victorian, really old house. Mm-hmm. And once we see the inside, again, fitting with the Haunted Mansion aesthetic of this episode, it's got some really weird antiques. Like there's a full suit of medieval armor
with like an upright axe.
And like a grandfather clock. The grandfather clock I get, especially for the old-timey house.
Sure.
But who's got a medieval suit of armor?
Must have just inherited it.
Is Grandma Tibble like a collector?
Could be.
It reminded me of like that part from Uncharted 4 where spoileth.
Haven't played it yet.
Yeah.
You'll
know what I mean.
You still need to loan me that.
So the Tibbles.
Yes.
They truly are the embodiment of chaotic neutral. I don't think they're necessarily evil, but the Tibbles are just chaos incarnate.
Yeah.
When they see something, they want to destroy.
I don't know if it's so much that they want to destroy. It's I mean, I think, granted, I know that this is the idea of the podcast, but you may be looking into it a little bit too much. I think it's really all it is just that they're just especially rowdy young boys, and they're not even fueled by destruction or anything. They just want to do the first thing that they think of, and it's usually a bad thing. They have no respect of like boundaries or like there's nothing sacred to them.
You know what? You have a point, but that's why they're chaotic neutral and not chaotic evil.
No, that I'm not disagreeing on you with.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the, again, we kind of need to dial it down from like lords of chaos to,
it's Spooktober. I got it on the brain.
We did. All right. I'm not with this Spooktober thing. This is not my idea. So Mrs. Tibble leaves Arthur with it, and as it cuts to her outside, she closes the door and she just goes, "Oh," and I'm just like, "Yep, take a lap, sister. Like you earned like she's only away for an hour," she says. So she kind of earned that a little bit. And I mean, I would be worried to leave them alone, but like she's also got to be like, whew. And so for most of his time there, Arthur kind of takes a hardline approach to trying to keep them in order, of just which is kind of how his friends advised him to do. It's just that I'm the babysitter and what I say goes, and just ordering them to do stuff, which is just patently not working. So we're obviously dealing with, or I shouldn't say obviously dealing with, but it seems that we're dealing with a form of, well, let's just say an anti-authority streak in the Tibbles.
Anarchy.
No.
Okay.
It's you're playing a bit fast and loose with these big concepts here, Lucas.
But I'll say this much. So we get a clip of basically Arthur's grown-up put-on voice. He says, "I'm the babysitter. And it's a little bit more of vocal theatrics from Arthur's voice actor. We've said before how hard it is to do voice acting as an adult of a kid pretending to be an adult. But this is something kind of different. It's Arthur trying to sound authoritative in a way he doesn't usually.
Yeah, it's more of him kind of yelling because, of course, he doesn't have any depth to his voice, so he needs to kind of really project it. So he's really yelling a lot more.
To no avail.
No, certainly not. They are running amok. DW calls to check on him, and she does. You kind of mentioned that they're a bit more amicable in this episode. They seem to have a much more peaceful relationship. Like DW calling to check up on him to see how he's doing, like genuinely concerned about his well-being.
Yeah, on one hand, like DW in this episode is very sweet. It seems like she generally cares about what's going on with Arthur because she knows the beast that is the Tibbles. But I also think that the writers are kind of using her as like not an exposition machine, but a plot device. Like DW sort of checks in 3 times this episode, or she attempts to 3 times this episode, and they're kind of the 3 points in the story. Like this is her assessing the initial situation of Arthur with the Tibbles. Anyway, it'll continue as we go along.
Yeah, you're right. She's kind of helping him move forward with like different motivations. So, of course, the Tibble twins are just doing whatever he please. Like, I must say, pretty creative in their mischief. Like, there's a lot of different things that they get up to, and it's just like drawing on the wall, roping down the suit of armor so that Arthur has to replace it, wheeling around like a wheelchair, like a chair on wheels, and just kind of playing train. And then Arthur catches them just eating raw sugar out of the thing.
Which I have to admit, I did before when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah?
I'm surprised I don't have pre-diabetes or something because I used to do it all the time when I got home from school. There was no snacks in my house. My parents never had any snacks. So it kind of backfired on them.
Bad move.
Because instead of just getting, I don't know, a mini bag of Doritos like I would if they had bought snacks, just open up a bowl of sugar, put a spoon in it, and just go to town.
That never really tasted good to me, though.
Oh, listen, as an adult, I think that is disgusting and deplorable.
Yeah.
But hey, I did it. This is my admittance of guilt. They also play 52 Pickup.
Yes.
Which I had never heard of this game until this Arthur episode.
It's not much of a game, I'll grant you.
No, it's horrible. And you know what? This is one of those cases where I got myself in trouble by repeating things I saw on TV. When I was a kid, I would grab a pack of cards, and my parents would probably want to play something like Go Fish or an actual game. And because I saw it on TV, I thought it'd be funny to yell 52 Pickup and throw the cards. They weren't happy about it, no matter who I tried this party trick with.
No, because 52 Pickup is so boring and awful. I can imagine them being upset with you.
It's fun for maybe like half a second when you're throwing the cards.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. No, and really, it's like a split second, and then it's like an afternoon of torture trying to find them all. Just a couple of quick notes here about the Tibbles. I looked it up, and I was surprised to find that the Tibbles were in the book series, so like the illustrated books that Arthur kind of spawned from. But in the books, they're human.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like you can Google image search just the Tibbles in Arthur books. They're humans. Everybody else is
Grandma Tibble a human in the books?
I didn't see her. I only saw Google images, and like they're just like little boys in like cowboy outfits. Because of course that's kind of what they have is sort of like because they have the neckerchiefs and stuff like that, but. Yeah, it's just like no little human boys, and it's the weirdest thing ever.
I wonder, the Tibbles don't really look much like their grandma.
No.
They're colored a completely different color. I'm not even sure if they're the same animal. So I was thinking to myself, are the Tibbles adopted, or maybe is their grandma from the side of the family they don't take after?
It's really hard to say.
But if they were humans in the books, that plays into the adoption theory. Maybe that's what the author was going for. I don't know. That's really strange.
Well, they're certainly not the same breed of animal if they're anything. So I don't know. Like maybe they get into it in like a way later episode. I can see them like after having run out of ideas in like season 13 or something probably. We're like, let's talk a little bit about the Tibble twins.
Hey, it'd be a good opportunity to talk about an adult subject. Adoption is something that kids could need some help understanding. What animal are the Tibbles? Do you know?
I don't for sure, but if I had to guess, probably little bear cubs would be my guess, I think.
They really do look like the kind of...
The rounded ears kind of...
Yeah.
And their grandmother seems to be like a dog, like maybe a beagle.
Yeah, I see that. Specifically with the snout shape.
Yeah. Big shout out to their first voice actors, Jonathan Koenskin, or, Kainskin, pardon me on the pronunciation, plays Tommy, and Ricky Mabe plays Timmy. And I think that they're both great. So, like, we kind of noted, you asked if they were actually kids, and I believe they are, and it's like really good kid actors. They seem to be having a lot of fun playing these kind of mischief makers.
You can really hear the enthusiasm in the voice and the performance, and they always kind of stay at that 11 level until the story demands they not be that way, which is actually interesting. Also, one more thing about the Tibble's Victorian mansion.
Sure.
Now, after the last episode, me realizing that all the Arthur backgrounds are hand-drawn, that is really apparent in this episode. The art in the background of the inside of the Tibble's house is actually really nice to look at in terms of, like, hand-painted. The colors used and stuff, it's not just like a boring-looking brown house. There's a lot of blues and greens in the composition, and it's just in really well-done set piece.
Okay. I kind of wish that I had looked closer, to be honest with you. That's good looking out. The whole time, the Tibbles are dead set on playing hide-and-seek, and Arthur's trying to get them to play his way. And then they eventually rope him up when they're playing cowboy, and they get him to play hide-and-seek where they go hide. And Arthur's kind of looking for them, and then he notices a window open, and then his mind immediately, his imagination, jumps to the worst possible conclusion that they have left the house and that they are tearing loose downtown and are committing mass mayhem.
Arthur says, "I'll be in trouble, and so will the town."
Yeah.
We see this imaginary scenario. The Tibbles go full Jumanji, letting all the animals loose in this zoo.
I just simply chalked it up to cartoon supervillainy by unleashing the animals, including the dangerous ones like the lion and the bear.
We get this great, like...
It's like the halfway point of 12 Monkeys in this.
Totally. I totally thought of 12 Monkeys with all the animals like running across the bridge.
Yeah.
Or the end of, what's that? Speaking of Naughty Dog games, that other one.
Oh, The Last of Us.
Yeah, where they see the giraffe. Again, though, this incurs the animal hierarchy of the Arthur universe. Hey, if you were playing the drinking game, take a drink. Because, once again, we question what did these animals do to not deserve sentience.
Oh man, I am going to do that at some point. Maybe after the first season, when we bank a few episodes, I will definitely create the Arthur drinking game. But that has got to be the very first one on the list, is bringing up the animal hierarchy in Arthur.
Another notable thing from this dream scenario is this realistic scream from this nameless glasses-wearing bunny.
Yeah,
he's running away from the lion, and it's not like one of the stock screams that Arthur goes to.
Yeah,
so
it's not one
times.
of the ones we're used to.
It's like an adult going, "Ah!" Like, it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah,
and hey, lions are dangerous.
I'd be scared to be in the vicinity of that line for sure. So Arthur answers the phone, and it's DW again, and then he kind of sees...
This is actually the third time Arthur gets a call from DW, except the second time the Tibbles had just picked up.
Yes.
Almost Taken style, saying Arthur can't come to the phone. He's all tied up right now. They literally tied him down. But this time, DW actually gets through to Arthur.
Yeah. And so he kind of finally sees them hiding behind a curtain. And Arthur, a quick thinker, decides to get them in the palm of his hand. And
a little bit of reverse psychology almost.
And... okay, so I'll grant you your Spooktober with this one.
Yes.
Arthur creates a legend of the Swamp Thing from just his own imagination, and says that he rises from the swamp every day around this time looking for something to eat. He's saying it loud and in a dramatic stage whisper so that the Tibbles can definitely hear him, but they think he's talking on the phone.
Some more great voice work, by the way.
Sure, yeah. There's a certain way you have to talk. So the Tibbles get scared and cling onto Arthur, and then
Their teeth start chattering.
Yeah, they're really scared. And so Arthur tells them what they can do about the Swamp Thing, tells them more about it, just really freaking them out even more because he realizes he can use fear to control them. Fear to control the chaos, and kind of like The Dark Knight Rises a little bit.
I was thinking more Chairman Mao.
Okay, we went in two different directions. Or Dark Knight Rises, The Dark Knight, excuse me. Just basically saying the Swamp Thing is this horrible creature that likes to eat twin boys, which is kind of the only thing something you can get away with when they're 4 years old.
Oddly specific, yeah.
But twins are always hard to find, so he's always very hungry, and that makes him mad. And so he's just really hamming it up. Eventually they get so scared the door opens, and they run away screaming, and it's their grandmother.
Well, it's also because he describes like the Swamp Thing as like dripping and stuff.
Yeah, it's like stinky swamp water.
And, well, there's drips outside the door. But it turns out it's Grandma Tibble, and she's got some...
With melting ice cream.
With melting ice cream, which, man, that ice cream must have not been in the freezer that long, because it's already... Or it's a really hot day.
Yeah.
Because it's melting right through the package.
Of course, Arthur offers to clean up from their destruction, and then they offer to help him, and to which Mrs. Tibble says she might faint. So you wanted to talk about payment because she says you're the first babysitter I've had that hasn't like gone running from the house, and gives him. It was like one bill, right?
It's one bill, and I paused it and I tried to zoom in as close as I can.
CSI over here.
It was kind of like a stylized number, so I can't tell for sure. At first I thought it was a 2, but of course there's no such thing as a $2 bill in America. I don't know about Arthurized America. But I can only assume it was a $1 bill. Grandma Tibble was so overjoyed with finally having a consistent babysitter that could stand her grandsons that she pays him a single dollar, 60 cents.
100 cents.
100 cents.
60 minutes goes into an hour.
As we've established with the Elwood City lore, I am not good at math.
Take a drink. Lucas doesn't know math.
But at least I'm a little bit better at finance than Arthur, I think. I would
You-
demand far more than a single dollar.
You would think so.
Well below minimum wage.
Then again, I think the shape of 2 can kind of go into a 5. Not that makes it better, because like
Hey, that's a little bit better.
$5 for taking care of the Tibbles. Either way, it's a single bill, and unless you're giving him a 20, like
I think a 10's fine. For an hour of work, that's almost minimum.
If it was a couple of hours, then we're talking 20.
Yeah.
10 for an hour with the Tibbles. Okay, sure. He's 8. Whatever. He doesn't care.
It's 1/5 of an action figure.
That's true. What, 5?
No, 1.
1.
Yeah.
It's a 15th.
Oh, jeez.
Take another drink.
Yeah, the second part of the Arthur Elwood City drinking game, Lucas gets some math wrong.
Yes. She says, you're the first person who hasn't gone running from the house, like run screaming from the house like they were running from a monster. And Arthur says, that's because I have the monsters on my side, Mrs. Tibble. Cool guys don't look at explosions out of there.
Yeah, it's very much, you said you were going to kill me last. I lied.
Come on, Cohagen.
He's dead tired.
Please don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired.
You do it. We give you the girl, you do what we want, right? Wrong.
Knock, knock. Stick around.
Let off some steam. Okay, we got it. We could go all night. Let's keep going.
Let's kick some ice. Oh, man. Oh, I'm sorry. So Arthur is whistling a jaunty tune back home. DW's trying to get him to say that it was terrible. But no, he admits that he had he had such a good time that he's going to do it every day this week. To which I'm like, all right, hold on. I was there, Arthur. You and I both know that was not a good time. Like, why do you feel the need to subject it? Don't you have anything better to do than babysit?
We actually know for certain he does, because earlier in this episode,
Right.
he cancels his plans. It turns out Arthur's really trying to pay this debt he has to DW that we established a couple episodes
$12
ago.
million?
Yeah, the 12. Well, not only so we have the
the $10.
$10, now $12 million.
So $12 million and 10.
So Arthur really needs any money he could get.
Man, Arthur's in debt.
Ample motivation. Arthur is talking about how he's going to go back to the Tibbles every day this week, and he says DW could come along with him. And
So if they have someone their own age to play with.
DW says to Arthur's mom, "Mommy, will you take my temperature? I feel really
temperature, I noted.
Temperature, yeah.
So, yeah, that's the end of the episode. Couldn't find a word from us kids this time around. So
Me neither.
We're going right into the second one, Arthur's Cousin Catastrophe. So we start off with Arthur's Cousin Catastrophe. The Reeds are preparing for something big around the house. They're prepping for a big day, and Arthur's kind of alluding to what it isn't. So they're kind of like cleaning up, they're getting stuff ready, putting up decorations. You know, it's not a holiday, it's not a birthday. Arthur at one point is tasked to clean out the freezer, I guess. So he puts on goggles, he puts on rubber gloves. He gets two sets of tongs in his hand and opens the freezer, and then is immediately met with an avalanche of frozen goods and just snow.
It reminded me of another PBS Kids show, Zaboomafoo. When the Kratt Brothers would go to the closet, there was a running joke on Zaboomafoo that like they'd have to go get something from the closet.
Yeah.
The
stuff
and the closet would always like completely dump out on top of them.
I don't know how they keep it in order like that. Like they have to like cram it closed every time.
Well, the running joke was this would happen every time, and it was kind of funny ahead of its time for like kids, because as a kid you would anticipate, oh, they're going to the closet again, which made it really crazy when every once in a while it would mess with your expectations and they'd open the closet and nothing would happen.
I don't think I ever saw those episodes, but I did like Zaboomafoo a lot. I always liked to see what kind of food they would feed him.
What food were they going to feed him?
Because they had that machine, and then they would just be like, what's the food going to be today? Oh, it's a banana. And it's like, here's banana Zaboomafoo, and that's how they make him talk.
And then he'd turn claymation.
No, yes. Like they would have a puppet for the live action and then claymation. I love the claymation parts. They were great.
Yeah, there was that drill guy.
They were like my favorite parts of the episode.
Maybe one of these days we'll do a Zaboomafoo podcast. Until then, let's hear about these
They
cousins.
would all be the same, though. That's the problem.
That's true. Hey, in this one, the Kratt Brothers come to their closet, and check this out. It fell on them. Some Lovecraftian horror came out of the closet, and Cthulhu fell on the Kratt Brothers.
And we couldn't do math. Kratt Brothers.
Right. Wait, really?
Yeah. Kratt.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no.
I've thought this for my entire life. They were the Kratt Brothers.
This is your equi-aqua of the episode.
Of mac and cheese fame. Oh,
drink for every time the boys have a revelation.
Oh man.
And what was the name of Kratt's Creatures was their show before.
What? They had a spin-off?
No, this was before Zaboomafoo.
What? Oh, we got to move on, or else I'm not going to be able to function anymore.
One day, if we set up a Patreon, that could be one of our reward tiers. Is we will review an episode of Zaboomafoo and Kratt's Creatures.
Kratt's Creatures? What?
Yeah. That's what got them Zaboomafoo, which was definitely a lot more popular. Anyway, Arthur's Cousin Catastrophe. So back to this freezer. Number one, what was Arthur trying to do? What did he need the two tongs for? Was he getting ice? Or was he going to scale the freezer itself?
Well, judging from my own personal experience when I have to clean a fridge, it's usually pretty disgusting. There's always some mayonnaise that's 8 years old out back. A fridge is getting a place of disarray if you're not on it.
We're talking freezers here, so not a lot's going bad. You'll get freezer burn, though.
There could be some bananas that have been in there since the dawn of time. I assume that's what the tongs were for. They were to remove gross waste. Some people keep their compost in the freezer.
That's true. I do. Yeah. Add your recommendation.
But it begs the question, if this is what happens when Arthur tries to go in the freezer to clean it, how did they get anything out of the freezer?
That's what I was going to say. How did you get the freezer to be this bad? How did you let this happen?
Especially when there's a chef in the house.
Well, yeah. It's the freezer doesn't make snow. You have to have it turned up to such a degree that, nothing, everything is freezer burning within days. Come on, people. Get it together. So it turns out they are doing all of this hoopla. Hoopla! 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 For the Reed family reunion. Have you ever been to did you guys ever have a Mancini family reunion?
So I have a pretty big extended family, both on my mom's side and my dad's side. We've never really had an official family reunion. But the closest thing was like my nonna's 90th birthday. We flew all the Mancinis out, the ones from Italy, the ones from Hamilton, Ontario. They all gathered for nonna's 90th birthday. So really it was the closest thing to a Reed family reunion. But like my extended family, I have a lot of family in Nova Scotia, and we get together for a lot of events, whether it be holidays, Thanksgiving's coming up. I'm going to see most of them then. And if you haven't already guessed it, that's what this episode's about, a family reunion. We get to meet the extended Reed family. And I really thought it's a realistic portrayal of that, because when my family gets together, it's a similar cast of characters, all different from one another, and it becomes quite the debacle. Always a good way, though. Family, in the end, you can always depend on them. How about yourself, Will? Have you ever had a family reunion?
Well, no, not for my own family. And really, like, the closest thing that we would get is if there's, like, a funeral or something. Oh. Because, well, a lot of my family on both sides are situated in Cape Breton. So we kind of are in, and I mean, granted, there will be times when we saw it, or more positively, like when my sister got married a couple of years ago. So like a bunch of our extended family came then as well. But I did actually go to an actual family reunion with my girlfriend this summer. We went to her family's family reunion in Cape Breton, which they like rented out a Lions Hall for.
Wow.
And like actually, like, yeah, her family is huge. Like her dad was like one of like in the late teens of like one of 16 or 17 kids, and then family sprouting out from there. So they really needed more of the space for a reunion. So I kind of got an idea of what that was like. And even then, it's kind of like the meeting itself is more of just kind of a general one, because they're mostly the family members that know each other best will kind of stick to each other, I find.
Yeah, I found that too at my nonna's birthday party. Like, you could tell immediately what the factions were. Like, oh, there's the Hamilton Mancinis.
There's the Mancini Black and White. There's the Mancini Wolf Pack.
Exactly.
Mancini Hollywood.
The Mancini LWO.
Yeah.
Along with the Mancini Wolfpack Elite.
Yeah.
I wonder what part I'm a part of. I'd like to think I'm part of the Mancini Outsiders, the OG crew, but of course I would say
the Mancini Club.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. We do get to see Arthur's extended family, and a lot of them are kind of more or less one-off characters. Like, we don't really get to see them again, and it's funny because they all have like new models. It's not like repurposed extras or something. It's like they all have these new models that really they're only used for this one episode. So it's I don't know whether or not to call it a waste, because maybe they were used in the backgrounds after this, but just like never really came to much. But they're definitely colorful in and of themselves. Like,
well, I gotta praise the animators here, because first frame we see Arthur's extended family. First frame, I had to pause it. I was laughing so hard because they perfectly embody the stereotypical uncle and aunt and cousin, like, immediately.
Yeah, it's like like, I don't know if they're ever really given name. They're not really given names, but it's like his aunt and uncle, and I was not sure what side they were on, but yeah, it's like the kind of more rotund uncle who's much hairier, and he's kind of like
he's balding.
He's got the camera going on, and the much slender, taller wife who's a bit of a busybody.
I think the wife had. I tried to figure this out too. I'm not sure. I don't think the wife is directly related to Arthur's mom by marriage, because we kind of get a peek in their relationship in flashes in this episode, and it doesn't come off as me as to...
Oh, her. I remember now. Her name is Loretta.
And I don't know the uncle's name, but God...
I don't know if they ever said it.
Do I love this guy.
Yeah?
I love Arthur's uncle so much. So immediately he steals the scene. He's got his mustache and his cartoonishly large...
He looks like Captain Lou Albano playing Mario.
And he sounds like him too.
Like he just needs the rubber bands in his face, and he's Captain Lou.
He goes, don't just stand there like the Mr. Piano Man, invite us in, huh? Which doesn't make any sense. What is he talking about?
Well, hold on. It's because Arthur plays piano. He knows Arthur plays piano.
Oh, I thought he was making like a Billy Joel reference, because he seems like the type of uncle that would just throw out some random Billy Joel reference.
Hey, sing me a song, Artie. You're the piano man.
Hey, Mr. Piano Man. Hey, play it again, Sal, like a Casablanca. You ever see the old movies? They used to make movies better when I was a kid. You friggin' idiot. I love this guy. My God, I love Arthur's uncle. I want a spin-off show, Frasier style, all about Arthur's...
When I was your age, I went to the multiplex. I saw Taxi Driver for 2 bits.
That's
and
right.
I got a ham dinner with it.
You could see 6 movies for a nickel. You just had to walk to this theater uphill in a snowstorm both ways.
Then you'd have to stay overnight in the multiplex, and they'd make you clean out the deep fryer so that you could pay your way, or else he'd ship you home on a cab, and then your father would get mad at you.
Beat you with a switch.
He
goes. Arthur tries to give them like a schedule because there's a lavish day of activities planned.
Right. And I should mention before you go on that he's bedecked with the camera, which is the supernova flash, and that's kind of his more or less his character. We're really attributing more character than he was given in the show, which is fine. But his is kind of like the annoying uncle who likes to videotape everything.
So Arthur tries to hand out this schedule, and he goes,
"Yes,
fun is my middle name. I don't need a list to have it."
Yeah,
I love this guy.
He takes it from him and then swiftly just throws it behind him. It's just like...
It's actually kind of rude, but that's this guy's personality. He likes what he likes. He's also got his son Ricky, which we get flashes of. Ricky's got this... He kind of seems like the kind of stereotypical cool uncle. He's got a backwards baseball cap and some loose-fitting pants.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a jerk, like a real 90s Bart Simpson type.
Hey, his dad thinks pretty fondly of him. He gets every chance he gets, he talks about his son Ricky. That's my boy.
He's my firstborn. He's my only son. I can't have any more.
He's going to inherit the photography business. Ricky, I'm going to buy you a photographer like your father.
I married into the Kodak fortune.
Okay. Ooh, I'm a little out of breath. Take a sip of water here.
Oh man, I can't wait to get back to this guy. Like I didn't pay him as much mind as you did, but man, I'm glad that he worked for you. With their family, so it's like he's got his cousin Ricky, he's got his other younger girl cousin who they never name, and then the elusive and mysterious cousin Mo, who Arthur immediately has anxiety flashbacks about how she used to treat him at previous family reunions, and kind of going back into Arthur's memory when he was like first very little. I gotta say, in kind of these 2 episodes, we see flashbacks of little Arthur. He was probably about DW's age before he needed glasses. He was real cute.
I wrote that down too. Cute little glassesless Arthur in his beige shirt. Like
he's just a little cutie. And they got a little overalls on him. He's just like it's cute. Mo kind of seems like a little stinker. Kind of maybe 5 or 6 years old. Well, if Arthur's 4, then she's probably closer to his age then, like maybe 7 or 8. And she kind of takes him, like spins him around on like the kind of carousel kind of thing. There's a great montage between there's 3 ensuing incidents that have given Arthur this anxiety, and between each one there's like a calendar montage, and there's this weird music as the months quickly flip over and over, and it's like this really creepy montage to go to the next ensuing incident, which each one is worse than the last.
Dare I say, spooky. The Arthur writers never...
Lucas looked from left to right before he said that.
I guess
as if they were going to take him away.
The Arthur writers never waste an opportunity to do something creative, either with a dream sequence or a flashback. That's something I'm finding now as an adult more than ever when we watch this show, is that the flashbacks are all really cool and super original, and same with the dream sequences. So instead of just having instead of just displaying these scenes for us, they use this transition, this close-up on this calendar to kind of give the whole thing this ominous tone. It's just super creative.
Then the second one is Mo practicing her kind of karate judoka skills.
Yeah, I wrote down she's a yellow belt in judo, which good for her.
Yeah, at a young age. And then the third one, which I thought was kind of interesting, and actually kind of terrifying, was that she dressed him up as a baby, like in a full bonnet, pacifier and everything, and stuffed him into a stroller. And this is when Arthur was probably 7 or 8, so that would have made her like 12 or something.
This is important to note that of all the flashbacks were shown, this is the one where he's the oldest.
Yes, he has his glasses at this point. This is terrifying. Like, this is something that scars a kid for life, is that he is laughed at while he's in baby gear in front of his entire family. Like, that's the kind of thing that warps a brain.
That's true.
And I thought maybe we're seeing the genesis of the baby slur.
I didn't even put two and two together.
Take a drink. We're mentioning the baby slur, but maybe this is why Arthur is so sensitive to being called a baby.
You know what? Whether intended or not, that makes perfect narrative sense.
Mm-hmm.
What have we said every episode? The one thing Arthur fears the most is being called a baby by his peers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of this. And who wouldn't? If this happened to me, I don't think I'd be able to look at a diaper box the same way ever again.
No way. And you're right. It makes perfect sense. Arthur catches a glimpse of Mo and then immediately runs away, and that becomes kind of the through line for the episode. I must say, like, for a reunion, we're talking about, like, for the Mancini reunion, like, tons of people. For my girlfriend's reunion, tons of people. This is kind of a conservative turnout for a reunion. It seems to be like a couple of uncles, a couple of aunts, Grandma Thora's mother, and then that's kind of it.
Which props to Grandma Thora's mother. Having a great-grandmother, I never got the chance to meet a great-grandmother in my family, so...
No, me neither.
It seems like you'd have to have... Someone along the line would have to have someone fairly young for that to be possible.
Yeah, for sure. So they're just kind of chit-chatting. Arthur's dad is, like you said, kind of really trying to make this the best reunion ever, so he's trying to keep a schedule. He's trying to spin a lot of plates at once.
And he's trying to put these hot dogs together, and some comedy ensues because he has all the materials for the hot dogs.
For burgers and hot dogs, yeah.
Except for the burgers and hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the buns, he's got the fuel, he's got the sauce. But he forgot the burgers and hot dogs.
So,
Arthur's mom has them, though.
So Arthur's problem that he's inventing in his head here, as we'll see, and not unfounded, I must say, like he has plenty of precedence to this, is that he needs to avoid Mo at all costs. So his mission is to get inside the house, hide in his room until she leaves, which I have problems with, but we'll get to it. Not in the sense that he wants to go and hide. Like, that's fine. I totally get that.
He starts out like MGS5 style, marking all of his targets in the tree. Like he's got his bionic buddy goggles.
Yeah, and they are able to sense danger,
which is very bizarre. Like the goggles immediately like start flashing danger at Cousin Mo, which I'm to assume that he probably ordered these from like a comic book or something, and they probably just say that like all the time.
Yeah, that's probably like a button you can press.
But then we get a great little jump scare where he's looking at Mo and then he turns slightly stage right and there's DW's mug right in his face.
Yeah, right where the eye holes are.
And we get the classic Arthur scream that they use so often. That's right. And does he fall from the tree?
He kind of like catches his legs, or he like is holding himself up by his arms, and it's not too far. So yeah, that's kind of Arthur's through line for the episode.
Yeah, we get a B plot and an A plot this episode. The A plot's Arthur trying to avoid Cousin Mo, and then actually the majority of this episode is just family hijinks.
Yeah. I wrote down here, I can't remember if it was apropos of anything, but I kind of said this before, Cousin Ricky kind of looks like a jerk. Like he's kind of like a problem waiting to happen.
Well, this is because Ricky's doing something athletic. I think he's like throwing a ball or a frisbee or something.
Oh, he's playing basketball.
And the uncle's going, "Hey, that's Ricky, my boy. Look at my boy go. He's such an athlete."
It's a 3-pointer there, LeBron James Jr.
Right. Steph Curry, who? Meet my boy Ricky. Meet me on the court.
Kevin Durant, you got the real tarantula on your hands here. What's bigger than a tarantula? A Tarantosaurus.
Black Mamba, more like Black Aardvark. He's coming for you. Gonna get drafted next year. He's gonna get a good college scholarship. Hey, this guy, that's my retirement plan right there. My boy Ricky.
We're going to get fat on that sweet NBA draft money.
So as much as I love Arthur's uncle, I despise his wife, this lanky aunt character.
I didn't think there was she didn't really see a whole lot to be despised.
So she goes to help in quotations, Arthur's mom with these burgers that have been causing so much trouble. Well, and she digs out this Flip-O-Matic that she bought obviously from some horrible as seen on TV store. Flip-O-Matic, it's probably OxyClean, ShamWow branded slap chop flip-o-matic. One of this garbage.
As seen on TV.
The only kind of present you get someone you barely know or care for.
Right.
And she insists, even though Arthur's mom has a spatula that works perfectly fine, she insists on using the flip-o-matic.
Well, because it was a gift that she sent her, and she noticed it was unopened. And she says, maybe you don't know how to use it, so decides to show her how to use it.
I think it's her tone. As we're describing these events so far, they're not eliciting the same negative reaction as they were when I was actually watching the episode.
Well, because it's not because she's kind of oblivious to it. She's not like I don't find that she's like condescending or anything. She's just kind of not very self-aware.
I guess. I think there's like a few flashes of character moments a little bit later on. But maybe this is all me.
Yeah, I think you may be reading a little bit too much into this. But it does lead to a fun gag with Mr. Haney where it's like the flip-o-matic is like spring-loaded and with like 3 things. So she sets it too high and they go flying. And
it's also got like 3 prongs.
Yeah,
so you
that's what I mean. She can do 3 at one time.
3 burgers at once, but it also has like settings so you could flip the burgers super high in the air.
Yeah.
Not a lot of purpose to it.
No, you don't really need to do that.
But
it leads to Mr. Haney stepping outside, setting himself up for failure by proclaiming what a wonderful day it is, and then getting 3 burgers in the mug, like 3 burgers to the grill.
Mr. Haney is, and you can take a drink on this one too. He's wearing his See Right leisure wear.
Yes,
it's the first time we've seen Mr. Haney in a t-shirt, flip flops, and shorts.
Mm-hmm. Like his real exercise gear. Like
he goes outside and he goes, what a perfect day! The sun is shining, the air is clear, the burgers are the burgers, and then whap, 3 burgers
and then
square in the
3
face.
burgers landing on his face is enough for him to say, screw it, I'm not going outside today, which I understand.
Yeah, dude, like Mr. Haney, like the flashes of Mr. Haney's life we've seen so far, I feel like this day was like the one bright spot in his week. He's got to deal with kids about to fail, accidentally sticking lollipops in places instead of Kleenex, all kinds of stuff. So this was the highlight of Mr. Haney's week, and it was ruined by a meat hailstorm.
I wanted to highlight kind of the Arthur's family member that annoys me the most, and that's his nerd cousin, who kind of intercepts him as Arthur is headed towards the door and kind of sneaks up on him. And he's kind of like, he's a nerd because he is trying to show Arthur his comic collection that he brought with him in like a briefcase or something. And he's kind of dressed like in sort of like a proper like child suit. And so he's telling him about like how he's got Spider Guy #1. He's also got issues of Mr. Stupendous and Mega Metal.
Is he also wearing like vampire teeth?
That's the thing. Is that what I was going to say? Is that bothered me when I was a kid? Is that he's got these 2 front teeth that are like prominent, and I think that the idea is that they wanted him to kind of have buck teeth.
Oh, I thought he was wearing, because of the suit, I just thought he was wearing vampire cosplay.
But you're right, is that he has, like, they look like vampire teeth.
And you know what? That's kind of, that fits with your, like, nerd assessment, because that's something that nerdy kids do. They wear their Naruto headbands to school.
But I don't know, because I don't think that he was, like, wearing a vampire costume. Like, it didn't seem like that to me. It seemed like more of just, like, a suit. It wasn't like he was wearing a cape or something. Which is kind of what you need. And he wasn't like, no attention was paid to it. And like we see him in another episode, and he's not wearing. He's still got the teeth, and I think that they're supposed to be buck teeth. But you're right, they look like vampire fangs, and that's what I always thought when I was a kid.
Spider Guy #1 kind of looks like Spider-Man when he has the Iron Man spider suit with like the arms, and it's the yellow and red. It's kind of Spider Guy #1. He's kind of orange or purple. But that's neither here nor there.
So Arthur brushes him off because Mo kind of sees him. And like we said, the A-plot is Arthur trying to get back into the house. But my biggest frustration with this is that multiple times, Arthur, in trying to escape by whatever means necessary, completely walks by a door that is doesn't even have anybody in it. Like, they get into a sack race. Like, Arthur has somehow made a full lap of the house and is trying to outrun Mo. And he, like, gets into a sack race and ends up winning it because he wants to desperately get away. He hops right by the back door.
Well, it does impress Arthur's uncle, who goes, "Wowee, that Artie's a fast little fella."
Usain Bolt.
Oh, I love him. I love him.
He does give a good wowee. Always appreciate a good wowee. So Arthur kind of making this harder on himself. Like at one point, he's just like under a table and kind of like bringing it along with him, and then scurries out under it again.
Super Metal Gear Solid.
Right by but right by the back door. Like I don't understand why he can't just go in the back door. Like it doesn't make sense.
As he's doing this, we get this. This is really strange for a kid's show. I love this moment, but it's weird that they put this in here. We get to see, which I can only assume it's either Arthur's dad's brother or Arthur's mom's brother.
This isn't when he's sneaking by the table. Now he's just like sneaking by General, like he's holding X and he's just pushing the analog stick forward ever so slightly as this conversation is going on. But I wanted to talk about this too.
Yeah, so it's one of his relatives, and it's
his uncle ? Sean. His name is Sean.
So this is so funny because like one of the writers, everybody knows somebody who always talks about their novel.
I think but you know what? Before you get into it, I think that's a good call. Like Sean and Arthur's dad look very similar. So I'd say that's probably spot on. Like I think that's probably his dad's brother.
But what's crazy is like I feel like I know all these people. This is what I like about this episode, even though it's not a great plot-wise, and we'll get into this more later. Like these characters are like. It's like when I compliment the character design and say something like Overwatch. Overwatch's characters, you can look at a character. If you haven't played the game, it's like a game where it's like a shooter game.
It's like a game.
Exactly. It's a shooter game, but something that's very important to it is that it's class-based. So you need to be able to look at a silhouette and immediately know what the character's like, not only in storyline, but how it plays. So fast characters are stocky and skinny, and they look fast. These characters in this Arthur episode, you kind of know everything you need to know about them with one look. So Arthur's uncle, that's the loudmouth with the mustache and the photograph. He reminds me of my family from Hamilton, Ontario. No offense. They're very similarly boisterous.
Whereas Uncle Sean here is much more buttoned up, like with glasses, kind of much more like at one point in my notes I call him like a proto-hipster because he's talking about a lot of stuff that like, all my friends have read it and all that sort of stuff. He's
very much an intellectual.
Yeah, an intellectual I think is a much better term for it, like almost like a university professor.
Mm-hmm. And he reminds me of my Uncle Colin, who is similar, very similar. Like he even looks the same.
Like we've all met people like that. We all may have them in our family. So to go on your thread here about this conversation, it's Sean talking with Grandma Thora and Grandma Thora's mother, like great grandma. They just call her Grandma throughout the thing. And Sean is talking about his latest project, which is an original mystery. It's a man hounded by his past, on the run from a dreaded enemy. He's hounded everywhere he goes. It seems like there's no escape. And so this kind of was, when I was thinking of this episode, I was like, I feel like there's a lot more adult jokes in this one. And I didn't find that so much, but what you're kind of saying about like recognizing people that you know through their looks, yes. And this is definitely more of an adult thing because Grandma kind of cuts in and is just like, oh, you mean like The Fugitive or Les Miserables? And I'm like, I know what those two things are.
Yeah, me too.
And I see what she's saying. He's like, it's like my new project, an original mystery, and gives this incredibly catch-all description for like hundreds of books, movies, everything out there. And then like she kind of unwittingly calls him on it. And then he says, well, yes, but completely different.
And I never realized, but The Fugitive and Les Miserables, I would never pair those two things together. It's some interesting.
If you boil them down to their basics, it's kind of the same thing.
But I never realized that until now. She also infers 39 Steps, the Alfred Hitchcock film.
That's what that is. Okay, I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, I only know about it. I've actually never seen it, which I'm a little embarrassed to say, but it's one of Hitchcock's earlier films. It's, I think, from the 30s. I'll have to check that again. It's either the 30s or 50s. I know, big difference.
I haven't seen it.
There is a criterion of it.
I would say the 50s. My guess would be the 50s, but I can't say that I know. Okay, I was wondering what that was. So yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of his character a little bit. Then they have themselves an egg race, which is where I know is Sean's name because somebody was saying his name in the background. So it comes down to a dead heat between Grandma and Ricky. And we get more sideline jabber from Ricky's father.
What can I say? I'm easy to please. I love these family hijinks. Like, you're rooting for Grandma so hard. Like, compared to Ricky, Grandma is such a baby face. because she's the underdog. She's a great grandmother.
She's at the back. She's using a cane to walk, and she's not out at front. Like Ricky's out in front, and so it's his race to lose.
And of course, as we've established before, Ricky's an athlete. It's his race to lose, and guess what? He loses it.
Hey, Ricky, piece of cake. You're doing it. You're doing it. Kind of sounds like Vinny from Giant Bomb when he puts on the real New York accent.
Oh, the Bruno voice? I see that.
So yeah, and Grandma wins, and she does this cute little endgame spike of the egg onto the ground. And his dad notes hard-boiled next time. So
right, because some of the
Ricky's egg goes from his spoon to the uncle's forehead.
Some egg shrapnel.
Yeah. Then they're playing charades, and Sean is doing something incredibly obscure, which is like he's trying to communicate bridge, but they're guessing everything bridge that they could possibly think of, and then
Bridge on the River Kwai. Bridges of Madison County, which I think is the movie that got my dad to stop liking Clint Eastwood. I'm not certain.
Oh, no.
My dad loved Clint Eastwood when he was a kid.
Okay.
And then he made Bridges over Madison County, and it was all downhill from there.
Oh, man.
I think that's the movie. I might be thinking of a different movie.
No, I think you're right on, because that was Clint Eastwood, but man, oh, man, that sucks.
People guess
a bridge too far.
DW.
London
Bridge is falling down.
And then I remember this off by heart, as many things I do. I've hardly looked at my notes for a lot of these lines. It's on the bridges of medieval Paris.
A record of early 14th century life.
By Virginia Wiley Egbert.
So I looked this up.
Oh!
I wanted to know,
is
this a goof?
Is it real?
Or is this a real book? This is a real textbook.
What?
I was like delighted when I figured this out. It's on Amazon. You can get the hardcover for $30.
Oh.
It is written by Virginia Wiley Egbert, and it's like a textbook.
Christmas present.
Exactly. There you go.
On the bridges of medieval. But that's crazy. I didn't even think to do that. That's great.
And
of course, lending further credence to the fact that he is an intellectual, maybe even a professor or teacher of some kind.
And everybody kind of like gasped, like not
everybody
gasped,
groans.
but they all groan because
even
like,
Pal, like you can see Pal go. Ugh.
Well, it's like this is something I would fall into, like if we were playing charades and I picked something that was too obscure for my family. If they were like name movies and I picked The Seventh Seal, and everybody would groan at me in a similar way, like,
Sure.
Lucas, couldn't you pick Star Wars or something?
Right.
So everybody groans, and we kind of get an indifferent Sean who goes, well, all my friends have read it.
Right. Sean doesn't really play to a crowd.
Which is great. It's just cool character work. Sure. I loved this.
So finally, everybody's kind of tired, and Arthur's dad's trying to get them to play more games, but then it starts to rain. Thunder, actually.
Well, so Arthur's dad's trying to get them to play musical shoes, which I'm not. So he's got all these wooden galoshes.
Yeah.
I guess you play it like musical chairs where you got to hop into the shoes before someone else did. But also, and this is very topical, mind you, Arthur's dad is decked out in full-on clown gear. Which, hey, if this was 2016, I'd be a little sus of Arthur's dad. Why's he got that clown gear, huh, Arthur's dad? What are you doing with that clown costume, Arthur's dad? You know what I'm saying?
He's a good clown. He only clowns for good.
Is he though? Yeah. Or is he taking part in Spooktober?
Oh my God, why did I let you do this? So they all run inside, and this is when Arthur finally gets inside. When everybody else is inside. It took him this whole time. This could have been so easy. He overbooked this like WCW.
Maybe the doors were locked. Also, when everybody goes inside, right, it starts raining. Arthur's dad is so desperate to follow this itinerary. He goes, maybe that was just a sonic boom. What? Excuse me? What? What does that mean, Arthur's dad? What are you talking about? Who hears lightning and who hears thunder? I goes, oh, it was probably just a sonic boom. Does that naturally occur in nature? I'm honestly asking. This isn't a rhetorical question. Like, have I been missing out on this sonic boom phenomena? Was Guile off screen? And Arthur's dad was aware of him.
A sonic boom is a noise that's created when a jet goes over.
Okay.
It's related to the Doppler effect. It's when when a fast aircraft flies over, the effect that you get afterwards, like the sound and kind of the feeling, is called a sonic boom. Because,
So, like-
because the Doppler effect is related to the sound that carries when something passes you.
My goodness, I didn't know you had such a
That-
deep knowledge of aerial engineering.
Thank you. Encarta 96. The Doppler effect was an entry in that Encarta encyclopedia that had like an animatic. So I remember that.
I should have ordered that instead of the On the Bridges of Medieval Paris textbook.
No, now we can make better use out of On the Bridges of Medieval Paris. Arthur and DW kind of meet each other in the basement, and DW says maybe the road will wash out and Mo will have to stay with us all week. And Arthur's about to lambast her, but then he hears the piano playing, and he goes in the room and he sees Mo playing the piano. And I think it's meant to imply that she's doing it well, but I found that her style of play was a little odd because like the way that they draw her playing, it's not like fingers on the keys at first. It's really, she's kind of like slamming her hands down a little bit, but she's playing what seems to be pretty well.
I don't know. It's difficult, right? Because when you see people play piano skillfully, their hands move so fast, it's kind of hard to see what's going on. Maybe the animators were trying to capture that because it's also hard to like, it's hard to draw fingers if you've ever tried to draw fingers. I'm no artist, and even I know that.
Sure.
I can't tell, but I didn't even catch on that. I think
because at one point she kind of makes a little mistake, and that's what spurs Arthur on to kind of correct her and like actually make contact with her, is that she's kind of trying to figure something out, and then Arthur kind of plays it for her next to her.
So right before this, I think this is the moment that kind of colored my opinion of Arthur's aunt. When it's raining outside.
Oh yeah, and she says it's probably, Arthur's mom says it's probably just a light shower.
And then Arthur's aunt kind of like rolls her eyes and goes, "Of course, dear, whatever you say."
Well, I think in that case it's like it really wasn't a light shower because any rain that comes with thunder isn't light, and I feel like that was kind of an opportunity for Arthur's aunt to be like, sure.
And maybe she was still feeling scorned by the fact that Arthur's mom never opened up the Flip-O-Matic.
Could be. So Arthur and Mo are playing piano, and then it's revealed that Mo actually learned to play piano because she always wanted to from seeing Arthur play it, and she wanted to learn how to do it too. Finally, it's revealed that Mo was not trying to... She was trying to find Arthur this whole time, but she reveals that it's because Arthur is her favorite relative. And the only reason she comes to the reunions is so that she can play with him. Which, I mean, okay. Like, whenever I would go to my my aunt and uncles, which wasn't so much a family reunion, but we'd have family members there. Like, I would always go off with my younger cousin, and like we're really close. And like we will still do that. Like when I see him, maybe once or twice a year at those kind of get-togethers, we'll just kind of like talk to each other. Like we're really close.
Okay.
And so I understand the idea of like going to something, and I wouldn't go there for just him, but like really pairing off, really finding a kinship with one family member. But like, man, I hope she understood that she had a real weird way of showing it, and like Arthur's not going to be totally trustworthy of her after like 3 years of basically torture.
Well, I also think that this is like, and this might be a classic case of Lucas looking too deep into things, but I think this is an example of, people change as they get older, they mature, and I think they learn how to express themselves in different ways. This really reminded me of my relationship with my older cousin, and it's the same age difference. She's a couple years older than me. She's in her mid-20s, whereas I'm in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. And I think when we were younger, we would kind of grind each other's gears a little bit. We'd make fun of each other, stuff like that.
Get on each other's
But we
nerves.
have more of a kinship the older we get. And I think this shows that, like, as people get older, especially kids, they learn to express themselves in more amicable ways.
Okay.
So I think
you're kind of right about that, and I kind of agree because when my cousin and I were much younger, and he's maybe, I think he's like 3 or 4 years younger than me, and yeah, like a lot of you're right. Like we wouldn't always be like rosy. Like he would be an annoying kid, and I would be an annoying kid. So okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down here.
Also, if you're a yellow belt in judo when you're a kid, what good is knowing judo if you can't throw your relatives? That's the whole point.
I guess so. I mean, I do find it's a little bit like, it's like they play piano and all is forgiven, and I'm like, nah, I bet Arthur's going to be a little bit untrustworthy of her given his penchant for anxiety. But I'm hearing what you're saying, and I I don't disbelieve it. So I think that's a good way of looking at it. Probably a bit better than I did. So they play piano, and then the episode wraps up with everybody kind of coming into the living room and dancing around, making the best of a rainy situation.
I hear the pretty music. I love this. It's like Billy Joel. Hey, everybody, the piano man's playing. It's the piano man.
Why don't you play Uptown Girl, Audie?
Hey, you got Freebird. You know Freebird on that thing? Play those pearly ivories.
Simple man. Yeah. Simple man. This bird you cannot change, Ricky. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been drinking.
His aunt says, this is way better than my Mince-O-Matic demonstration. His aunt's essentially the female embodiment of the ShamWow guy.
Yeah, Vince Offer.
Oh, you know the ShamWow guy's a
Sure,
name. I'm impressed.
Who doesn't? It ends in success, and his like he said, it was the biggest and best reunion ever. So that's kind of ends on a high note there. So that's the end of the episode. So, what did you think of these two episodes?
Very interesting pair of episodes. So the first episode, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a really fun, entertaining episode. But it's funny, I had a similar problem with the first episode as you had with the second. I found the conclusion kind of came out of nowhere. It was odd because Arthur's struggling with the Tibble twins. He's struggling. He tells the spooky story. They get scared of him. Grandma Tibble comes home, and then all is fine. I feel like the ending kind of came out of nowhere. I don't understand how all of a sudden, because he was able to scare the Tibble twins, it kind of erased all the hardship he had to go through immediately beforehand. And so all of a sudden he's game to babysit them for the rest of the week. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, I completely understand. In that sense, it reminds me a lot of Bounces Back, in the sense of just the ending didn't kind of equal the parts of it. I think it kind of is almost more of a functional episode because it introduces kind of the Tibble twins, who go on to kind of flesh out DW's world a little more. And it was it was almost like this episode was kind of to get the Tibble twins over, and you kind of had to sell them. You had to sell them to an audience as a tag team, and. Yeah, and aside from that, I mean,
very Steiner Brothers-esque. Yeah. If I had to fit them to any tag team.
That's Rick in the red kerchief and Scott in the blue one.
But I'll tell you what though, sometimes the utilitarian episodes can kind of wash over me just because they don't have rising and falling action, or they don't have a really good 3-act structure.
Yeah.
But this episode I found still really entertaining. I won't hold that against it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, when I say I'm not a huge fan of an Arthur episode, I don't think there's been I don't think there's really been more than maybe one or two that I've been oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
They're hardly ever bad, and they're usually a good time to watch. And of course, it helps that they're just brief. Because there's two episodes, it's 10 minutes, so it doesn't really bother me that much. This one, I kind of didn't get a whole lot of feelings from. It just kind of left me. I just feel kind of mild about it. It's fine. I
think at their worst, a lot of them, at their worst, they're uninteresting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Arthur Goes to Camp wasn't bad. It was just simply uninteresting.
Yeah, a little dull.
So this one, and this might just because I'm a mark for the Tibble twins, but I was throughfully entertained with this one.
Throughfully. I think you just invented a word.
Hey, if you've been paying attention, another one to the drinking game, Lucas stumbles and invents a word. That's happened plenty.
Yeah, I memean, it's fine. It's totally fine. But and the Tibble twins are an interesting addition, which I think, like you said, adds a little chaos into the mix. Yeah. Other than that, I wouldn't go to bat for it necessarily.
So, Arthur's cousin Catastrophe.
So I think I know where this is going. So do you mind if I kind of give mine first?
Sure, absolutely.
I wasn't as crazy about this as I think you are. I can tell from talking about it, you have very strong feelings about it. I thought I was going to like this a lot more than I did. And it's kind of the same with the Tibble Twins episode. I think it's fine. And I think I would feel a little better about it if... I will say one of my problems was kind of the resolution of it all, but the way that you kind of interpreted kind of the way that Mo and Arthur kind of make peace kind of makes sense in a realistic sense. But it also kind of bothers me that we never really went back to these characters again. So I feel like it's kind of a little bit of a throwaway, like maybe throwaway is a little strong, but like kind of a
one-off,
maybe filler. Like if we're talking in like terms of like if this were an anime, it would be like a filler episode, which filler episodes can be fun, and this one pretty much was. But also
this is the equivalent where all the characters go to the beach in an anime.
yeah, they go to the hot springs.
Yeah,
I liked it fine, but it just kind of it didn't do much for me beyond that. So what did you think?
So, and I have to sort of frame this in that this is my personal opinion. Like, I can recognize that plot-wise, this episode's very weak. We actually, like, Arthur's main plot does not take up the majority of the episode. It's mostly family hijinks, but because I relate...
And it's decidedly, like, low... It's pretty low stakes.
It's low stakes.
Especially like, the stakes we realize can be pretty high in this show. Like, in the last episode, I was just listening to it as I was editing today, with Pal's life hanging in the balance. So the stakes can be pretty high if they want them to be.
But, like... And again, this is just me. I think this episode worked for me personally for a lot of reasons. Like, it was kind of firing on all cylinders to be a Lucas episode. One, lots of adult characters. You know I love the adult characters in Arthur.
Yes.
Two, I think like the caricatures of family was so on point and so relatable in terms of when like my family gets together that I just thought the whole thing was hilarious when we're seeing spots of the family. And I think... what we did have of the Arthur storyline, I think it's because I saw it differently from this perspective of, I think when people mature, it's easier to bury the hatchet because you're like, oh yeah, weren't we silly when we were kids? And now that we're adult, we could just be friends because this is what happens when you reach a certain age. Because I was already viewing it through that lens, I think the main plot worked a little bit better for me than it did for you. So all that said, like, I had a great time watching this episode. And these two episodes as a pair, they're a weird mix. Like, this was a weird pair of episodes. Like, one of them is very much not filler. It introduces a whole new dimension to the Arthur universe in fleshing out sort of DW's universe with the Tibble twins. And then this other one is just sort of an excuse for the writers to be like, look at Arthur's family. Look at his uncle. Look at this guy. Hey. I don't know. I had a great time watching this Arthur episode as a whole.
Well, good. I'm glad that you did. And like, would it be a fair guess that Cousin Catastrophe could be a contender for your top 5 at the end of the season?
I think certainly. But I also think that like, this is something about these two episodes together as a pair, even though both of them kind of didn't have great conclusions, they worked together for me as like, this is a good pairing of episodes. I think a lot of episodes so far we've had like kind of one sleeper and then one I really liked. For instance, Arthur Goes to Camp and Buster Makes the Grade.
Yeah.
I kind of felt really mellow about Arthur Goes to Camp, and I think Buster Makes the Grade was my favorite individual episode so far.
It's really strong.
I think this one is a solid twofer.
Okay. All right.
Just for me personally.
Okay. Well, very good then. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed talking about it with us, and thank you very much for listening. And of course, we will leave you to next week. Coming up next week, kind of two that I don't remember very well, and I like that because I like when I'm going into things with a little bit of a new, like I need to kind of refresh my memory. Next week we'll be talking about Arthur's Birthday and Francine Frensky Superstar.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm interested. There's bits and pieces I remember from each of them, and I'll be happy to talk about them once again. Thank you very much for listening to Elwood City Limits. We really do appreciate it. Of course, you can find us Facebook, Elwood City Limits. You can find us on Twitter at ECL Podcast, and email us with anything you like, elwoodcitylimits@gmail.com. Rate and review on iTunes. We really do appreciate it. You can also find us on SoundCloud if iTunes isn't your bag. And yeah.
And hey, homework for the audience. If you see Arthur costumes, send us in those pictures. We'll try and repost them and credit them best we can. And also, if you have ideas for the Elwood City drinking game, I'd love to hear some of those.
I can almost guarantee you that that's the way that I will get my girlfriend to listen to a podcast if I make it into the drinking game. That's how I made her a wrestling fan, is that I made the Royal Rumble a drinking game, so this is going to happen. Maybe it may be an end of season treat. Of course, the end of the season coming along. We have got a long way to go as I look at the episode list, but maybe for the end of the season we'll do a little special episode, and that will be part of it. So I will keep that in the back of my mind. Would always love your suggestions, and of course you know where to put them: Facebook, Twitter, email, and all of that. All right, Lucas, what do you got to say?
Don't just stand there, Mr. Piano Man. Invite us in, huh?
Invite us in. Thanks a lot. This is Elwood City Limits. My name's Will. That's Lucas. Good night.
Happy Spooktober, everybody. All right, this will be some fun cutting room floor time filling. Get all warmed up. Will's not even here, so I could say whatever I want about him. Just you, the listener, will get to hear what I think of Will. I actually think he happens to be a pretty stand-up guy, but don't tell him I said that. It'll be our little secret. I've been watching Naruto Shippuden. It's really terrible, but sometimes it's like, I don't know, it's mostly nostalgia. It reminds me of when I used to watch it when I was a kid. And right now, it's all about Sasuke, and what can I say? He's pretty cool. And Will's back. Shh, it'll be our little secret.